The entire diner went silent. A racist bully had just slapped an elderly black woman right in front of everyone. But what he didn't know was that the woman's son was an FBI agent. Within minutes, that single slap would ignite a storm that would change his life, his reputation, and the entire town forever. This wasn't just about disrespect. It was about justice, redemption, and the power of forgiveness. Because sometimes, the people you underestimate are the ones destined to teach you the biggest lesson of your life. Welcome to BrainFuel, where real stories ignite powerful lessons. From pain to purpose, from struggle to strength, every story here fuels your mind to rise, think, and transform. Hit subscribe and feed your mind with power. The morning sun spilled through the glass windows of Betty's diner, painting the booze and counters in warm gold. The air smelled of butter, coffee, and fresh biscuits. It was one of those calm Georgia mornings where time seemed to slow down. The regulars were in their usual spots, old men reading newspapers, couples whispering over pancakes, and a waitress named Jenny refilling mugs with a tired but friendly smile. At a corner booth near the window sat an elderly black woman named Martha Lewis. She wore a pale blue dress, her gray hair neatly tucked beneath a small hat. Her hands trembled slightly as she unfolded the morning paper, not from weakness, but from age. She smiled at the headline, something about the local community garden reopening. Martha had volunteered there last week. Helping others gave her peace. 2 booths away sat Travis Miller, big, red-faced, and restless. His broad shoulders filled half the seat, and the table in front of him was already littered with empty coffee cups and bacon crumbs. He was muttering into his phone, his voice rough and sharp. "I told him I'm not taking orders from no rookie," he growled. "I've been on that damn site for 15 years. They lay me off? Over what? Some computer issue. Bull." He stopped when he noticed the waitress approaching. "You gonna bring that food or what?" he snapped. Jenny forced a polite smile. "It's coming right up, sir." Martha watched the exchange from a distance, quietly sighing. She'd seen men like him before, loud, angry, always needing someone else to blame. Still, she believed everyone deserved grace. She returned to her coffee and whispered a small prayer under her breath. "Lord, give that man peace. He's carrying too much anger." The diner's door chimed again, letting in a cold breeze and a young mother with her little boy. The boy laughed as he ran to a booth. The sound was light and pure. It made Martha smile. It reminded her of her own son, Marcus, when he was that age. Always full of questions, always dreaming big. She thought about calling him later that day just to hear his voice. He worked far away now, always busy, but he never forgot to check on her. "Blueberry pancakes for table 4, Jenny said, setting the warm plate in front of Martha. "Thank you, dear," Martha replied softly. As Martha reached for the syrup, she realized her napkin had fallen on the floor near the next booth, the one where Travis sat. She slowly stood, steadying herself with the table, and took a step toward it. Her knees weren't what they used to be, but she moved carefully, not wanting to bother anyone. But as she leaned down to grab the napkin, her elbow brushed the back of Travis's chair. The sound of scraping would fill the air as his chair jerked forward. He turned sharply, his eyes narrowing. "Hey!" he barked. Martha froze. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean—" Before she could finish, Travis stood up, towering over her. His face was red, his voice louder now. "You people always think you can do whatever you want, huh?" The words cut through the chatter of the diner. Forks stopped clinking. Someone at the counter turned in their seat. Martha blinked, confused. "Excuse me," she said softly. Travis stepped closer, the smell of cheap whiskey heavy on his breath. "You heard me," he said. "Watch where you're going." Jenny took a nervous step forward from behind the counter. "Sir, please, there's no need for this." But Travis wasn't listening. His pride was bruised, and that was enough. He reached out, his hand shaking slightly, then slap. The sound cracked through the diner like lightning. Martha's glasses flew off and hit the floor with a tiny clink. The entire place went still. Even the coffee machine seemed to stop hissing. For a moment, no one breathed. Martha didn't fall. She just stood there, one hand against her cheek, her eyes closed. The sting burned, but not as much as the humiliation. She slowly opened her eyes and looked at him. Not with hate, not even with anger, but with something deeper. Disappointment. Travis's chest heaved, his jaw clenched. The moment after the slap stretched into silence, so heavy it felt like time itself had stopped. Every pair of eyes in the diner was locked on them. Jenny whispered, "Oh my God." A man near the door reached for his phone, quietly hitting record. Another woman covered her mouth, tears welling up. Martha finally spoke, her voice calm and steady. "God bless you, son," she said. Travis blinked, taken aback. "What?" "I said, God bless you," she repeated. Her voice didn't shake. "I hope you find peace." The way she said it, slow, sincere, unwavering, made something flicker across Travis's face. For just a second, his rage cracked and confusion slipped through, but his pride wouldn't let him back down. He scoffed. "Yeah, whatever. Next time, watch where you're walking, old lady." He turned back to his booth and sat down, stuffing a piece of bacon into his mouth as if nothing had happened. The diner remained silent. No one spoke. Jenny stood frozen, her hands shaking. The young mother held her child close, whispering, "Don't look, baby." Martha reached down, picked up her glasses, and gently placed them back on. One of the lenses had a thin crack running through it. She looked around the room, not for help, not for pity, but for courage. Then she straightened her back, reached into her purse, and took out a few bills. "How much do I owe?" she asked softly. Jenny swallowed hard. "Ma'am, please, you don't have to." But Martha placed the money on the counter anyway. "For the pancakes," she said, "and for the coffee." Then, with quiet dignity, she walked toward the door. Her steps were slow, but steady. As she reached the exit, she paused, looked back at a room full of silent faces, and said, "When you see someone being hurt and you stay silent, you choose the wrong side." No one responded. She opened the door and stepped out into the sunlight. The sound of the door chime rang once, soft and final. Inside, the silence lingered. Travis chewed loudly, pretending not to notice the stares. But his hands trembled. Somewhere deep down, he knew that slap had just changed something, not just in her life, but in his, because the woman he thought was powerless had a son who was anything but. The wind outside the diner was gentle but cool. Martha pulled her shawl tighter around her shoulders as she stepped onto the quiet street. Her reflection in the diner's window looked older than she felt. Lines deepened, eyes weary, but still there was strength in her stance. She took a deep breath, the faint smell of bacon and coffee clinging to her clothes. The walk home was a slow one. The streets of Brookhaven, a small town just outside Atlanta, were lined with oaks whose branches hung low and heavy with spring leaves. Martha walked with careful steps, her shoes softly tapping against the cracked sidewalk. Every so often, she'd pass a familiar face, a store clerk sweeping his front steps, a mailman waving from his truck, and she'd smile back, pretending everything was fine. But inside, her heart was heavy, not because of the slap itself. Pain fades. It was a humiliation, the reminder that even after 72 years of living, of surviving, of serving her community, there were still people who looked at her and saw less. She'd seen it before, decades ago, when she was a young girl in Montgomery, and she thought she'd left those days behind. She paused outside a bakery window and looked in. A young couple sat by the glass, sharing a slice of pie, laughing freely. The sight made her smile faintly. At least some things do change, she thought. By the time she reached her little white house at the end of Maple Street, the sun had risen high. The house was small but neat, surrounded by a garden she tended herself. Yellow roses, her favorite, bloomed by the porch steps. She unlocked the door and stepped inside, greeted by the familiar creak of the wooden floor and the ticking of the clock on the wall. Her living room was filled with memories, family photos in mismatched frames, the smell of lavender and old books, and a quilt draped across the couch that she'd sewn years ago. On the mantel sat a photo of her son, Marcus, in his FBI uniform, his arm around her shoulder, both of them smiling proudly. She touched the frame gently. "If only you'd been there today, baby," she whispered. The phone rang. The sound startled her slightly. She shuffled over and picked it up. "Hey, Mama," came a cheerful voice. Martha smiled, her eyes softening. "Marcus, I was just thinking about you." Marcus laughed. "You always say that. Maybe we've got a connection or something." "Maybe so," she said. He continued, "Just checking in. How you doing? You sound tired." She hesitated. Her fingers tightened slightly on the phone cord. She could still feel the sting on her cheek, faint but present. But she didn't want to worry him. "I'm all right, sweetheart. Just been a long morning. That's all." "You sure? You know I can hear it when something's off." Martha smiled again, trying to steady her voice. "I promise I'm fine. Just had a small incident at the diner." There was silence on the other end. "Incident?" "Nothing serious," she said quickly. "Just someone who forgot their manners. That's all. You don't need to worry." "Mama." Marcus's voice had changed, lower now, focused. "What happened?" "Marcus," she said softly, "you've got bigger things to worry about than an old woman's mourning." He sighed. "You're not just an old woman, Mama. You're my mother. Tell me what happened." She hesitated again, then finally said, "A man got upset when I bumped into his chair. He raised his hand to me." The silence that followed was different this time. It was cold, heavy. "He what?" Marcus said, his voice sharp. "It's all right, baby. It's done. I walked away." "You walked away after someone hit you?" "I walked away because I've seen enough anger in my lifetime. Fighting him wouldn't change his heart, but praying for him might." Marcus didn't respond for a long time. She could almost picture him on the other end, sitting in some office, hands clenched, trying to calm himself. "Mama," he said finally, his voice tight, "do you know who he was?" She shook her head. "No, and I don't care to. God will handle him." But she knew her son. Marcus wasn't the type to let something go. Not when it came to her. "I'm coming down there," he said. "You will do no such thing," she replied firmly. "You've got work, Marcus. And besides, I'm fine. I've been through worse." "I don't care," he said. "You didn't deserve that. Nobody does." Her voice softened. "Baby, you can't fix every evil in this world." "No," Marcus said, "but I can fix this one." Before she could answer, he said, "Text me the name of the diner." "Marcus." "Please, Mama." She sighed. "Betty's Diner, down on Jefferson Street." "All right," he said, his tone final. "Don't worry about anything. I'll call you tonight." When he hung up, the house felt too quiet. Martha placed the phone down and stared out the window. The garden swayed gently in the wind, the yellow roses moving like small flames. She sat down in her favorite chair and closed her eyes. She didn't regret walking away. She believed in forgiveness, in letting go of hate before it poisoned the heart. But she also knew her son. Marcus had his father's fire, that same fierce sense of justice. He'd inherited her patience, but it lived under layers of steel. She opened her eyes again and reached for the Bible on the table beside her. It was old and worn, its leather cover soft from years of use. She flipped it open to a verse she'd read many times. "Do not repay evil with evil, but overcome evil with good." She read it aloud, slow and steady. Then she whispered, "Lord, help my boy remember this too." Outside, a car passed by slowly, its music faint in the distance. She could hear children laughing somewhere down the street. The world moved on, as it always did. But the diner scene wouldn't leave her mind. The shock on people's faces, the silence, the weight of it. The sound of that slap kept echoing in her memory, like a bell that wouldn't stop ringing. She pressed her hand to her cheek again. It wasn't the pain that stayed. It was a reminder of how fragile dignity could feel in a single moment. And yet, even as she sat there, alone in her small living room, Martha Lewis did not see herself as a victim. She saw herself as a survivor, a woman who'd seen the worst of people and still chose to be kind. But deep inside, she also knew something else. The world had changed since her younger days, and so had justice. Somewhere out there, her son was already moving, already looking for answers. And even though she prayed for peace, A part of her couldn't shake the feeling that something big was about to happen. Something that would make sure no one ever laid a hand on her again. Travis Miller lived on the edge of town in a small, half-broken house that looked like it was always waiting for someone to fix it. But no one ever did. The porch sagged slightly. The paint was peeling, and 2 empty beer cans rolled lazily in the breeze near the front steps. The truck parked outside, a rusted Ford F-150, hadn't seen a wash in months. It was noon when he finally stumbled home from Betty's diner. The sun was bright, but his mood was anything but. He pushed open the front door and kicked off his boots, muttering under his breath. The living room smelled like stale beer and engine oil. A stack of unpaid bills sat on the coffee table beside an empty bottle of whiskey. He dropped onto the couch and rubbed his temples. The image of the old woman's face flickered in his mind. The way she'd looked at him after he hit her. Not angry, not scared, just calm. That look had unsettled him more than he wanted to admit. He tried to shake it off. She had it coming, he told himself out loud. Should have watched where she was going. But his voice didn't sound convincing. He grabbed the remote and turned on the TV, the volume too high, static flickering before the news appeared. The anchor was talking about a local robbery, but Travis wasn't listening. His mind kept drifting back to the diner, to the silence, to those people staring. He'd seen one of them holding up a phone, recording. A flicker of panic ran through him. Nah, he muttered. No one cares about some diner nonsense. Still, he checked his phone. Dozens of notifications blinked across the screen. Texts, messages, missed calls. He scrolled through them, frowning. Buddy construction crew. Bro, you're all over Facebook. Mason. Dude, what did you do? That video's crazy. Amanda. Travis. Tell me that wasn't you. His chest tightened. Video, he whispered. He tapped one of the links. The screen loaded, showing shaky footage from inside Betty's diner. The sound came first. His voice, angry loud. Then the slap. The camera caught everything. The woman's face. His expression. Her words. God bless you, son. Travis froze. The room seemed to tilt around him. Comments were already flooding the post. Monster. Disgusting. Somebody find this man. This is someone's grandmother. He scrolled faster. His hands shook. The video had over 30,000 views already. Someone had tagged the local news station. Another tagged the police. Damn it, he shouted, throwing his phone across the room. It hit the wall and cracked. He stood pacing. His breath came hard. He'd been in fights before, bars, parking lots, job sites, but this felt different. He'd never been the villain before. Not publicly. Not like this. The sound of tires crunching outside snapped him from his thoughts. He looked through the window. It was his younger brother, Eddie, pulling up in his tow truck. Eddie walked in without knocking, tall and lean with a face that was always calm, the opposite of Travis in every way. He looked around the mess. Heard you made the internet again, Eddie said flatly. Travis glared. Don't start. Eddie crossed his arms. You hit an old lady, Trav. An old black lady. What the hell's wrong with you? Travis turned away, picking up the broken phone. She bumped into me. You didn't see it all. I saw enough, Eddie said. Whole damn town did. You're trending on Facebook. Mom called me crying. Travis winced. His mother lived 2 towns over. She'd raised him after their dad left. A kind woman who believed in church and forgiveness. She didn't deserve this embarrassment. She doesn't understand, Travis muttered. No, Eddie said. You don't understand. You think you can do whatever you want and people just look away. You've been lucky too long. Lucky? Travis barked. I lost my job. My house is falling apart. My truck's dying. You call that lucky? Eddie didn't flinch. You made your life this way. The room went silent. The air between them felt heavy. Eddie sighed and shook his head. You need help, Trav. Real help. Anger management, something. Don't you preach to me, Travis snapped. You think you're better than me, 'cause you drive a damn tow truck and go to church on Sundays? Eddie looked at him for a long moment, disappointment in his eyes. No, he said quietly. I just know right from wrong. He turned to leave. Before stepping out, he said, "If I were you, I'd call a lawyer. That video's not going away." The door slammed shut. Travis sank back onto the couch, breathing hard. He reached for another beer, but stopped halfway. His stomach churned. The anger that had fueled him earlier now turned into something else. Fear. He turned on the TV again, flipping through channels until he landed on the local news. And there it was, his face. The diner. The video replayed with the headline, "Elderly woman assaulted in local diner. Police investigating viral incident." He stared in disbelief as a reporter spoke. Authorities are currently identifying the man involved. Witnesses describe the attacker as a white male, approximately late 30s, seen driving a blue Ford truck. His heart dropped. That was his truck. He rushed to the window. Across the street, a group of teenagers were standing, pointing their phones toward his house. He cursed under his breath and slammed the blinds shut. His phone buzzed again, an unknown number. He answered. "Mr. Travis Miller?" said a calm voice on the other end. "Who's this?" "This is Officer Daniels with the Brookhaven Police Department. We'd like you to come in for questioning about an incident that took place at Betty's Diner this morning." Travis swallowed hard. "You can't be serious." "I didn't do anything." "We have video evidence, sir," the officer said. "We prefer to handle this cooperatively." Travis's voice shook. "So, what? You're going to arrest me for defending myself?" "Sir," the officer said patiently, "you assaulted a 72-year-old woman. Come in voluntarily or we'll come to you." The line went dead. Travis dropped the phone and sat there, silent. Sweat rolled down his neck. He didn't move for a long time. His mind raced. Anger, fear, confusion all colliding at once. How had everything spiraled so fast? Yesterday, he was just another guy at a diner. Now, he was public enemy number one. He stood up, pacing again, running both hands through his hair. "She's ruining my life," he whispered. But deep down, even he didn't believe it, because the truth was he'd ruined his own. And somewhere far away, someone powerful, had already seen that same video. Someone who called the woman in it mom. Inside Betty's diner, the sound of that slap still hung in the air long after Martha had left. No one moved for several seconds. It was as if the whole place had turned into a photograph. Even the ceiling fan seemed to spin more slowly, the blade slicing through the thick silence. Jenny, the waitress, stood frozen by the counter, her hands still gripping the empty coffee pot. Her eyes were wide, her heart hammering so hard she could hear in her ears. She wanted to say something, to shout, to tell that man to get out, but her voice just wouldn't come. Travis sat back down at his booth, chewing his food like nothing had happened. He didn't look up. He didn't look around. He just ate, the muscles in his jaw moving mechanically. At the other end of the diner, a young couple sat by the window, whispering. The woman clutched her husband's arm. "Should we call the police?" she murmured. Her husband glanced at Travis, then back at her. "Let's just stay out of it." The words made her stomach turn. "Stay out of it?" she repeated softly. "He hit her?" "Yeah," he said, lowering his voice. "But you don't know that guy. Look at him. He's drunk or something. He could come after us next." In the corner booth near the door, an older man wearing a delivery uniform pulled out his phone. He'd been recording quietly from the moment the argument started. His hands were shaking, but he knew what he had to do. He replayed the clip, the slap, the silence, the woman's calm words. "God bless you, son." He whispered to himself, "This needs to be seen." He uploaded it to Facebook, tagging a location and typing a caption with trembling fingers. "This happened right here in Brookhaven this morning. This poor woman didn't even fight back. What's wrong with people?" He hit post. Across the room, Jenny finally set the coffee pot down. The sound of it touching the counter startled her back to reality. She glanced at Travis. He was wiping his mouth with a napkin, his face expressionless, his eyes glazed with arrogance. Jenny took a deep breath and walked toward him. Her voice came out quiet but firm. "Sir, you need to leave." He looked up, smirking. "Why?" "I paid for my food." You hit a customer. She said, you can't stay here. Travis laughed loud and harsh. Lady, she hit me. She bumped my chair. I just pushed her back. Jenny's voice rose, trembling with anger. That wasn't a push. That was a slap. You hit a 70-year-old woman. Travis slammed his palm against the table. I said she hit me first. The sudden noise made a few people flinch. Jenny stepped back, her courage faltering. She wanted to scream at him, but she also didn't want to make things worse. Her manager wasn't there that morning, and she didn't know what the diner's policy was for calling the police. Sir, she said carefully, please leave before I call the cops. Travis leaned forward, eyes cold. Go ahead. Call them. You think they'll arrest me over that? The way he said it made her skin crawl. A man sitting at the counter finally spoke up. You should be ashamed of yourself, he said, his voice shaking with controlled anger. She's old enough to be your mother. Travis turned his head slowly toward him. You got something to say? The man stood up halfway, then hesitated. He was big, but Travis looked unhinged, and there was something in his eyes, something dangerous. The man sat back down, muttering, not worth it. Travis smiled to himself. He liked that silence. It made him feel in control again. He tossed a few crumpled bills on the table and stood. I'm done here, he said. He walked past Jenny, who instinctively stepped aside. The diner door creaked open, and as he left, the bell above it jingled, a small, almost cheerful sound that didn't fit the mood at all. When the door closed behind him, the entire room seemed to exhale. Someone whispered, Is she okay? Another voice said, I can't believe nobody did anything. Jenny turned toward the counter, her hands trembling. Did anyone get her name? She asked. The delivery man who recorded the video spoke up. She paid and left. Said her name was Martha, I think. Jenny sighed. God bless her. She looked down at the floor, where Martha's cracked glasses had fallen earlier. She picked them up carefully, wiped the lenses with a napkin, and set them on the counter. I should have done more, she whispered. The man beside her said softly, You tried. Nobody expects to see something like that. Jenny shook her head. That's the problem. We don't expect it. So we freeze. And that's how people like him get away with it. Outside, Travis's truck roared to life. The sound made everyone inside flinch again. He sped off down the street, tires screeching. The young mother, who'd been sitting near the back, still had her arms around her little boy. He looked up at her with wide eyes and asked, Mommy, why did that man hit the lady? Her throat tightened. Because he's angry, sweetheart, she said softly, and he doesn't know how to be kind. The boy frowned. That's mean. She smiled sadly. Yes, it is. As the diner slowly returned to life, people began murmuring again. Conversations hushed but tense. Some left early, their meals unfinished. Others lingered, scrolling through their phones, refreshing social media. Within minutes, the video had begun to spread. Comments multiplying, shares climbing, hashtags forming. Jenny didn't check her phone. She just stood behind the counter, wiping the same spot over and over again. When the lunch rush came later that day, people walked in whispering about the slap at Betty's diner. Some asked questions. Some avoided the topic. But every person who stepped inside looked at the booth where it happened, as if they could still see it there, frozen in time. By evening, the police showed up to take statements. Jenny told them everything she remembered, her voice breaking when she mentioned the look on Martha's face. She didn't even raise her hand, she said quietly. She just forgave him, right there, like she knew something we didn't. The officer nodded, taking notes. We'll find him. When the officer left, Jenny locked up the diner, turned off the lights, and stood alone in the dark for a moment. She could still see Martha's calm eyes, still hear her voice. God bless you, son. Jenny whispered into the quiet. I should have said something. But deep down, she knew it wasn't just her. Everyone in that diner had failed that morning. They'd all seen it, heard it, felt it, and they'd all done nothing. The morning after the diner incident, the sun rose slow and heavy over the city. The golden light crept through half-closed blinds and spilled across the cluttered desk of Special Agent Marcus Hayes. Marcus sat alone in his small home office. Paper spread everywhere, a cold cup of coffee beside his laptop. He'd been awake since 5 a.m., reviewing a case file, a missing persons case that had gone cold weeks ago. But he wasn't thinking about the case. His mind was somewhere else. For weeks, he'd been telling himself to visit his mother, Martha. She lived just outside town, small house, white picket fence, the smell of fresh-baked biscuits always in the air. But the job always came first. The bureau didn't sleep, and neither did Marcus. He was mid-sip of his stale coffee when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. Agent Hayes. Yes, sir. My name's Jenny. I work at Betty's Diner on Maple Street. I think you're Martha Hayes' son. The mention of his mother's name made him sit up straight. Yes, that's my mother. Is she okay? Jenny's voice trembled. She's fine, I think. She came by here yesterday morning. There was an incident. A man hit her. Marcus's jaw tightened. What did you say? Jenny's breath caught. He slapped her, right across the face. I tried to stop him, but Marcus didn't let her finish. He was already standing, his chair scraping against the floor. Where is she now? Is she hurt? She left afterward. Jenny said quickly. She said she was fine, but someone filmed it, and it's all over Facebook. I thought you should know. Marcus froze. The words all over Facebook echoed in his mind. He didn't thank her. He didn't say goodbye. He just ended the call and opened his laptop, typing Betty's Diner slap into the search bar. The first result was a video with nearly 100,000 views. The thumbnail showed his mother's face, calm, graceful, and heartbroken. The title read, Elderly Woman Slapped in Diner. Her response left everyone silent. Marcus clicked it. The video began shaky, filmed from someone's phone. He watched his mother stand there, holding her purse, saying something gentle. Then the man's hand flew across the screen, striking her. The sound cracked like thunder through his speakers. Marcus's breath hitched. His hand clenched into a fist, so tight his knuckles turned white. He saw his mother stumble, but not fall. Saw her straighten her coat. Saw her whisper those soft words. God bless you, son. He stopped the video. The silence that followed was deafening. For the next several seconds, Marcus just sat there, staring at the paused image of his mother's face on the screen, that same face that had comforted him through every scraped knee and broken dream. And now, that same woman had been humiliated in front of strangers. He replayed the slap again. Once, twice, 10 times. Each time, the sound cut deeper, until it wasn't just anger, it was pain buried beneath years of discipline and training. His phone buzzed again. A text from his partner, Agent Kim. You seen this video? It's going viral. The victim's name is Martha Hayes. Any relation? Marcus didn't reply. He didn't need to. Everyone at the bureau knew how close he was to his mother. He pushed his chair back and stood up. His reflection stared back at him from the dark computer screen. A man usually calm, composed, unreadable. But not today. His jaw was locked, eyes burning. He reached for his jacket, his badge, his gun. But then he stopped. He wasn't thinking clearly. He wasn't acting like an agent. He was acting like a son. He forced himself to take a breath. Inhale, exhale. Then he called his mother. The line rang twice before she answered. Marcus, baby, she said softly, as if she already knew. He didn't bother with small talk. Mom, what happened? There was a pause. He could hear birds chirping in the background, the faint rustle of her morning paper. It's nothing, sweetheart, she said. Just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? His voice cracked. He hit you, Mom. In public. People just watched. Marcus, she said gently, I'm fine. I promise. Don't you do anything foolish, you hear me? He sank into his chair, pressing a hand against his forehead. Foolish? Mom, I watched the video. I saw what he did. Her tone softened even more. You know how your daddy used to lose his temper over small things. It never made anything better. Sometimes you have to let God handle it. He laughed bitterly. Mom, I'm not God. I'm the FBI. I know, she said, her voice calm. But even the FBI can't fix hate. Only love can. That sentence hung between them, heavy and quiet. Marcus closed his eyes. He could have really hurt you. But he didn't, she replied. And if my words made even one person think before raising their hand again, then maybe it was worth it. He didn't know what to say. Promise me you won't go looking for him, she added. Marcus hesitated. Mom. Promise me, she said firmly. That's not who you are. He nodded silently, even though she couldn't see it. Okay. After they hung up, Marcus sat there for a long time. His laptop screen dimmed to black. The house was silent, except for the faint ticking of a clock. He didn't go to work that day. Instead, he stayed in his office, replaying the video over and over, studying the man's face, the jawline, the tattoo on the forearm, the distinctive trucker cap, every detail etched into his mind. At noon, his partner texted again. We've ID'd the suspect. Name's Travis Cole, local mechanic. Prior assault charge. You want in on this? Marcus stared at the message. His mother's words echoed in his head. Promise me you won't go looking for him. He typed one word back. Yes. Then deleted it. Instead, he locked his phone, stood up, and walked to the window. Outside, the city was bright and alive, unaware of the storm brewing in his chest. He whispered to himself, You mess with the wrong woman. The calm in his voice was terrifying. For the rest of the day, Marcus didn't make a move. But his silence wasn't peace. It was patience, the kind that comes before a storm. And Travis Cole had no idea that the woman he slapped was the mother of a man who could end his entire world. Legally, quietly, and completely. The morning air in downtown Brookhaven was crisp, carrying the faint smell of gasoline and old coffee as Marcus pulled into the FBI field office. He hadn't slept. The video replayed in his mind every time he closed his eyes. His mother's calm expression, the sound of that slap, the way everyone in the diner froze. He had promised her he wouldn't go looking for the man. But promises and justice didn't always live in the same world. Marcus parked his car, straightened his tie, and walked into the building. His partner, Agent Kim, was waiting near the elevator, holding a cup of coffee. You look terrible, she said quietly. Didn't sleep? Marcus replied. Kim hesitated before speaking again. The suspect from the diner. We ID'd him officially. Travis Cole, 32, local mechanic at Ridgeview Auto. You still want in? Marcus kept his expression unreadable. I just want to make sure the case is handled right. Kim studied him for a moment. Marcus, this is personal. You sure you can stay objective? He met her gaze. I'm sure. The elevator doors opened, and they stepped inside. As they rose to the third floor, Marcus's reflection in the mirrored panel stared back at him, stone-faced, silent, calculating. When they reached their floor, Kim handed him a slim file. Inside were printed screenshots from the viral video, Travis's mugshot from a prior assault case, and a list of known associates. Marcus flipped through the papers slowly. Has anyone brought him in yet? Not yet, Kim said. Local PD is dragging their feet. They say the victim hasn't filed a complaint. Marcus clenched his jaw. She wouldn't. That's not her way. Well, Kim said, maybe it's yours. He didn't answer. By noon, Marcus sat alone in the evidence room, his laptop open, pulling data from various law enforcement databases. He wasn't technically assigned to the case, at least not yet, but he knew how to navigate the system. Years of experience had taught him that the line between official and personal could blur easily if you were careful. He typed Travis's name into the Bureau's search system. The results came quickly. Minor thefts, one assault, a dismissed charge for public intoxication, and several complaints that never went to court. Then he found something interesting, an old police report from a bar fight 3 years ago. Same pattern. Travis had hit an older man during an argument. The man didn't press charges. Marcus leaned back in his chair. So this isn't the first time. He picked up his phone and called Detective Ramirez from the local precinct. The two had worked together on a narcotics case last year. Ramirez, the voice answered. "It's Marcus Hayes," he said. "You got a minute?" "For you? Sure. What's up?" "I need some info on a guy named Travis Cole." "You got eyes on him?" Ramirez sighed. "Yeah, I heard about that diner thing. Ugly stuff. We haven't brought him in yet. No victim statement." Marcus's tone hardened. "That video is enough to start a case." "Maybe," Ramirez said, "but our hands are tied until someone files a complaint. You know how it works." Marcus paused. "What if a federal agent made an inquiry?" Ramirez hesitated. "You saying you're opening a case?" "Just asking for a location," Marcus said. There was a pause. Then Ramirez said quietly, "Ridgeview Auto, like the report said. North Side. But listen, Hayes, don't do anything stupid. I know this is your mom, man, but the badge don't make you bulletproof." Marcus ended the call without replying. He stared at the folder on his desk for a long moment. The Bureau's code of conduct ran through his mind. Agents must remain impartial, objective, and professional at all times. He closed the folder. But he wasn't thinking like an agent anymore. By late afternoon, he drove past Ridgeview Auto, a run-down garage with a flickering neon sign and a row of dusty pickup trucks out front. The air smelled of oil and cigarettes. Travis was there, laughing with two mechanics near the open bay door, a beer in his hand, even though it was barely 3 p.m. Marcus watched from across the street, his car engine idling. He noted everything: the tattoos, the way Travis carried himself, the distinctive limp in his right leg. He recorded the scene on his phone, silent and cold. He wasn't there to act. Not yet. He just wanted to see the man's face, to understand the kind of person who could hit an old woman and then laugh about it. A delivery truck pulled up, blocking his view. When it drove off, Travis was gone. Marcus exhaled slowly, gripping the steering wheel. You won't hide forever. That night, Marcus returned to his office and began building a file. He mapped Travis's known hangouts, social media posts, and connections. He even pulled surveillance footage from traffic cameras near the diner. Each piece of data brought him closer. When Kim walked in around 9 p.m., she stopped in the doorway. "You're still here?" Marcus didn't look up. "Almost done." She glanced at the screen. Travis's face stared back. "You're not letting this go, are you?" He shook his head. "He thinks no one will hold him accountable. That's about to change." Kim crossed her arms. "If you go after him without authorization, it's your career." Marcus finally looked at her. "If someone hit your mother in public and walked free, what would you do?" Kim didn't answer. She just stared at him for a moment, then turned and walked out. Marcus leaned back in his chair. His phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. "You don't know who you're messing with." He stared at the text. No name, no signature. He smirked. "Travis," he muttered. It meant one thing. Travis knew who he was now. Marcus stood, turned off the light, and left the office. The hallway was empty, the sound of his footsteps echoing off the walls. As he stepped into the cool night air, he made a silent promise to himself. Not revenge, but justice. He wasn't going to hurt Travis. He didn't have to. The law, when used right, could destroy a man far more completely than anger ever could. And Marcus Hayes was very good at using the law. Still, as he drove home, a quiet thought kept whispering in the back of his mind. Would justice really be enough? Because every time he remembered that slap, every time he saw his mother's face in that video, the line between justice and vengeance got thinner and thinner. The next morning dawned gray and cold, the kind of morning that made the whole town look washed out. Marcus sat in his car across the street from Ridgeview Auto again. He had been there since before sunrise, the engine off, his badge resting on the passenger seat beside him. Inside the garage, Travis Cole was already at work, grease on his hands, music blaring from an old radio. Every so often he'd step out to smoke, his laughter loud and careless. Marcus watched him through the windshield, unmoving. He wasn't here for revenge. At least that's what he kept telling himself. He was here for justice. But justice, he knew, sometimes looked a lot like rage held on a leash. By 8 o'clock, he stepped out of the car, straightened his jacket, and crossed the street. A young mechanic spotted him first. "Can I help you?" Marcus flashed his badge. Special Agent Hayes, FBI. The kid's eyes widened. Is this about the catalytic converter thing? Because I'm here for Travis Cole. Marcus cut in, calm but sharp. The laughter and music from inside the garage faded as everyone turned. Travis looked up from under the hood of a pickup, a wrench in hand. When his eyes met Marcus's, something shifted in his face. Confusion first, then recognition. FBI, he said slowly. What's this about? Marcus walked closer, each step measured. You already know what it's about. Travis wiped his hands on a rag. Can't say I do, Agent. You gonna tell me, or are we just gonna play guessing games? Marcus's expression didn't change. You slapped an elderly woman at a diner 2 days ago. Her name's Martha Hayes. For a moment, Travis said nothing. Then a smirk crept across his face. Oh, that lady. Didn't know she had government connections. Marcus's eyes darkened. You didn't know she had a son who works for the Bureau either. Travis froze for half a second, then laughed. You're her boy? Damn. Guess it's a small world. You think that's funny? Marcus asked quietly. I think it's life, Travis said, leaning against the truck. People get in your way. Sometimes they pay for it. She bumped me. I reacted. No big deal. Marcus took another step forward. You hit her? Travis shrugged. She's fine, isn't she? Didn't even press charges. So why is the FBI sniffing around my shop? Marcus's jaw clenched. Because what you did wasn't just assault. It was hate-motivated. And that puts it in my jurisdiction. The words landed heavy. The other mechanics started whispering among themselves. Travis laughed again, but this time it sounded thinner. You're stretching, Agent. I ain't racist. I was drunk, that's all. Marcus's voice lowered. Then why'd you call her a name right before you hit her? Travis's smirk faltered. What name? Marcus held up his phone. He pressed play. From the diner surveillance footage, which he had obtained through official channels that morning, Travis's voice echoed faintly. Move, lady. You people think you own the place. The shop went silent. Marcus stopped the recording. You want to finish that sentence for me? Travis's face turned red. You can't prove anything. That video's garbage. Oh, I can prove enough, Marcus said. Enough for a federal hate crime enhancement. Enough for assault. Enough for your probation to be revoked from that bar fight 3 years ago. For the first time, Travis looked uneasy. He tossed the rag onto the floor. You think you can scare me? Marcus took one step closer, until they were barely 2 feet apart. I don't have to scare you, Travis. I just have to let the law do what it's meant to do. But I'll tell you this, you made one mistake too many. Travis squared his shoulders. What? You gonna arrest me here? In front of my guys? Marcus slipped the badge back into his coat. Not today. Today I'm just giving you a chance. Travis frowned. A chance for what? To make it right, Marcus said. You walk into that police station. You confess. You apologize to my mother publicly. And maybe, I'll recommend leniency when this goes federal. Travis barked a laugh. You want me to apologize? To her? For what? Losing my temper. Marcus's tone hardened. For being a coward. The laughter stopped. Travis's eyes narrowed. You calling me a coward? Marcus nodded slowly. Only cowards hit women. Only cowards pick on someone weaker to feel strong. The air between them tightened. The mechanics were frozen in place, pretending to work while watching every second. Travis stepped closer, chest puffed out. You talk a lot for a guy hiding behind a badge. Marcus didn't flinch. You talk a lot for a man who's about to lose everything. For a heartbeat, it looked like Travis might swing. His hand twitched, his jaw flexed, but Marcus didn't move. His eyes stayed locked, cold and unblinking. Finally, Travis dropped his hand and backed away. You think you can threaten me all you want, but I know how this goes. Your mom's fine. I ain't saying sorry. Marcus's voice turned quiet again, the kind of quiet that carried weight. Then I'll see you in court. He turned to leave, but before walking out, he paused. One more thing, he said over his shoulder. That woman you hit, she raised me to believe in mercy. That's the only reason you're still standing right now. Travis didn't respond. He just stared, jaw tight, pride bruised but still alive. Marcus walked out of the garage into the gray morning light. His pulse was steady now, controlled. He had come close, too close, to crossing a line. Halfway to his car, he heard footsteps behind him. It was the young mechanic from earlier. "Agent Hayes?" he said, voice shaky. Marcus turned. The kid glanced around nervously. "I just wanted to say what he did was wrong. We all saw that video. He brags about it like it's nothing. Maybe he needs to learn he's not untouchable." Marcus nodded once. "Then tell the truth when the time comes." The kid swallowed hard and nodded. "I will." Marcus got into his car and sat for a long moment, staring at the steering wheel. He could still hear his mother's words in his head. "Promise me you won't go looking for him." He whispered, "I didn't go looking, Mom. He found me." As he drove away, the first drops of rain began to fall, splattering against the windshield, soft, rhythmic, cleansing. Behind him, inside the garage, Travis watched the black SUV disappear down the street. He spat on the ground, muttering under his breath, but his hands were trembling. For the first time, he understood that the slap he'd given 2 days ago wasn't just a moment of anger. It was a mistake that had awakened a storm far greater than he could handle. And the man who carried that storm wore a badge. The rain that began that morning didn't stop for 2 days. It poured over Brookhaven like the sky itself was trying to wash something away. The guilt, the shame, or maybe the truth everyone had ignored for too long. By Monday, the diner incident had exploded online. What had started as a shaky phone video now sat on every major news feed, every talk show, every social media timeline. Hashtag Justice for Martha trended for 3 days straight. People were furious. Comment sections filled with thousands of voices, some praising Martha's grace, others demanding Travis's arrest. A few even posted Travis's workplace address, and by noon, angry protesters had gathered outside Ridgeview Auto with signs that read, "Protect our elders," and "Cowards hit women." Inside the shop, Travis sat in the office, his leg bouncing nervously. He hadn't touched a customer car all day. His boss, Frank, paced by the window, peeking through the blinds. "They're out there again," Frank said. "TV crews this time." Travis slammed his fist on the desk. "They don't know the truth. She provoked me." Frank glared at him. "You slapped an old lady, Travis. On camera. There's no truth that fixes that." Travis stood abruptly. "She bumped me. I was drunk, okay? It wasn't about her being." He stopped, realizing how hollow it sounded. Frank cut him off sharply. "Get out. You're done here." Travis's mouth fell open. "You're firing me?" "Yeah," Frank said. "Before your name ruins this whole damn business." Travis started to argue, but saw the fear in Frank's eyes. Not anger, fear. The kind of fear that spreads fast when the world turns its gaze on you. He grabbed his jacket and stormed out the back door, his face pale. The crowd outside spotted him immediately. Someone shouted, "That's him!" Cameras turned. Phones lifted. Travis threw up his hood and rushed his truck, but a protester stepped in front of him. "Apologize," the man yelled. "Say you're sorry to her." "Get out of my way." Travis snapped, shoving past him. Someone threw a cup of coffee that splashed across his windshield. Another voice shouted, "Coward!" He jumped into his truck and sped off, tires squealing, heart pounding. For the first time in his life, Travis Cole wasn't the one people feared. Meanwhile, across town, Marcus sat at his mother's kitchen table. The same table he'd grown up at. The one where she taught him how to pray before meals and how to forgive people who didn't deserve it. Now that same woman sat across from him, her eyes calm despite everything happening outside. "They're saying my name on the news," she said softly. "Never thought I'd be famous for something like this." Marcus frowned. "It's not fame, Mom. It's awareness. People need to see what hate looks like and how to respond to it." She smiled faintly. "With peace." He nodded. "With justice." She reached across the table and took his hand. "Justice isn't about punishment, baby. It's about change." He looked down, conflicted. Change doesn't happen without consequences. She squeezed his hand gently. I know, but promise me something. When this is all over, don't let anger be what drives you. You can't carry that and still do good in this world. Marcus didn't answer right away. The words cut deeper than she knew. Just then his phone buzzed. It was Kim. He answered. Yeah? You're not going to believe this, she said. Travis just turned himself in. Marcus's eyes widened. What? Walked right into the station. Kim continued. Lawyer by his side. Said he wanted to make a statement. Marcus glanced at his mother, who simply nodded, as if she had known this would happen. At the Brookhaven Police Department, Travis sat across from Detective Ramirez. The same arrogance he'd shown at the garage was gone. He looked smaller now, his shoulders slumped, eyes bloodshot from lack of sleep. Ramirez hit record on the audio device. State your name for the record. Travis Cole, he muttered. All right, Travis. Ramirez said, leaning forward. You here to make a statement? Travis nodded. Yeah. Look, I screwed up. I hit that lady. I was drinking, I was mad, and I said things I shouldn't have said. It wasn't right. Why are you turning yourself in now? Ramirez asked. Travis stared at the table. Because I can't go anywhere without people spitting at me, calling me a monster. My family stopped answering my calls. I lost my job. Everyone hates me. And maybe, he hesitated, maybe I deserve it. Ramirez studied him quietly. You're lucky she's not pressing charges. But given your record and the hate speech caught on video, the DA might still move forward. Travis nodded weakly. I'll deal with it. Ramirez switched off the recorder. You're doing the right thing now. Might not fix everything, but it's a start. Travis let out a long breath. Doesn't feel like much. Ramirez shrugged. It's more than most do. That evening, Marcus watched the press conference from his living room. Travis stood before the cameras, wearing the same jacket from the diner. His lawyer read a prepared statement. My client, Mr. Cole, expresses deep remorse for his actions toward Mrs. Martha Hayes. He acknowledges his behavior was unacceptable and driven by anger, not prejudice. Then, unexpectedly, Travis took the microphone himself. He looked directly at the cameras. Mrs. Hayes, he said, voice cracking, I don't expect forgiveness, but I need to say I'm sorry. You didn't deserve that. No one does. I was drunk, angry, and stupid. I'm ashamed. The room fell silent. Marcus's mother watched beside him, her face unreadable. When the broadcast ended, she turned to her son and said, See? Change. Marcus exhaled. Maybe. The next day, the doorbell rang. When Marcus opened it, a small box out on the porch. No note, no return address. Inside was a pair of broken eyeglasses, carefully wrapped in tissue paper. His mother's glasses, the ones she dropped that day in the diner. A sticky note inside read, I found these. Thought she should have them back. TC. Marcus stared at it for a long moment before handing it to his mother. She smiled sadly. Looks like he's learning. Marcus wasn't sure if it was redemption or guilt. Maybe both. But he couldn't deny the shift that had happened. The slap that had once symbolized hate now carried something else, accountability. And though Marcus still carried the sting of what had been done, he began to understand what his mother meant. Forgiveness didn't erase pain, but freed you from living inside it. That night, he stood outside under the fading rain, looking up at the sky. The storm had passed, but the air still smelled of change, raw, real human. He whispered, You were right, Mom. From inside, her gentle voice called, About what? He smiled faintly. About love being stronger than hate. The courthouse in Brookhaven had never been this crowded. Reporters lined the steps, microphones ready, cameras flashing under the dull morning light. People whispered as Travis Cole walked up the stairs between two officers, his head bowed, wrists cuffed loosely in front of him. It had been 3 weeks since the diner incident. 3 weeks of sleepless nights, threats, and reflection. He had replayed that slap in his head 1,000 times, hearing the sound over and over until it wasn't anger he felt anymore, but shame. Inside, the courtroom buzzed with tension. The air was thick with curiosity and judgment. On one side sat the public, a mix of angry townsfolk and quiet onlookers who had seen the video more times than they could count. On the other sat Marcus and his mother, Martha Hayes, calm and composed. Travis's lawyer leaned close to him. "Remember what we practiced. Don't speak unless asked. And whatever you do, look at her when you apologize." Travis nodded, his throat tight. The judge entered, and the courtroom rose. After a brief opening, the charges were read aloud: assault in the third degree, public disturbance, and hate speech. Each word felt like a stone dropped into Travis's chest. Then came the moment everyone had been waiting for, the victim's impact statement. The judge turned toward Martha. "Mrs. Hayes, you may address the court." Martha stood slowly, leaning slightly on her cane. The courtroom fell silent as she walked to the podium. "Your Honor," she began softly, "I don't have fancy words, and I don't have anger left in me. I've been alive a long time, and I've seen hate before. I've seen what it does to people, how it eats them up from the inside out." She turned her gaze toward Travis, who couldn't meet her eyes. "When that young man hit me," she continued, "I saw more than just his hand. I saw a hurt person trying to hurt someone else. And that's what broke my heart the most." A murmur rippled through the room. Martha took a breath. "I could ask for punishment. I could demand he be locked away. But I won't, because that wouldn't change what's broken inside him or in this world." The judge leaned forward slightly, intrigued. "I'm asking the court to show mercy," Martha said. "Let him work. Let him rebuild. Let him serve this community instead of rotting in a cell. Let him see what kindness feels like. Maybe then he'll understand what he tried to destroy." The judge's pen paused midair. Travis finally looked up, eyes wet. He didn't expect forgiveness. He didn't deserve it. Martha stepped closer, her voice softer now. "You can't undo what you did, Travis, but you can live differently after it. And I hope you do." Then she turned, nodded respectfully to the judge, and walked back to her seat. The silence in the room was so heavy you could hear the faint buzz of the overhead lights. Travis's lawyer leaned toward him. "Say something. Now." Travis rose shakily. His voice trembled. "Your Honor, I don't know how to follow that. But I'll say this. I was drunk, angry, and stupid that day. But that's not an excuse. Mrs. Hayes, I'm sorry. Not because I got caught, but because I hurt you. And because I looked at you and saw everything wrong with myself." Martha gave a small nod, her eyes kind but steady. The judge cleared his throat. "I've been on this bench 22 years, he said slowly, "and I've never seen a victim ask for leniency after an attack like this. Mrs. Hayes, your grace humbles this court." He looked at Travis. "Mr. Cole, your actions were shameful. But today, you've been given a chance most people don't get, mercy. I suggest you earn it." He struck the gavel. "Sentence: 1 year of community service, mandatory counseling, and racial sensitivity training. No prison time. Case adjourned." The courtroom erupted. Some clapped in disbelief. Others muttered angrily. But Martha stayed calm, as if she had known this was how it should end. Travis turned to look at her one last time before being escorted out. She met his gaze, then gave a small, forgiving smile, the kind only someone who truly understood pain could give. A month later, Travis found himself at the Brookhaven Community Center, wearing a faded orange vest with volunteer stitched on the back. His first assignment was serving meals at a shelter. To his surprise, the center supervisor was none other than Marcus. When Marcus saw him walk in, their eyes locked. Neither spoke for a long moment. "You requested this, didn't you?" Marcus finally asked. Travis shook his head. "No, just got assigned here." Marcus crossed his arms. "Guess life's got a sense of humor." Travis nodded awkwardly. "Guess it does." The silence was thick until Marcus sighed. "All right, let's get to work. Food doesn't serve itself." As the day went on, Travis worked quietly, handing out trays of food to homeless families. He noticed how Marcus treated everyone with respect. Every handshake, every smile genuine. It was humbling. When they finally locked up, Marcus turned to him. "You know, my mom watches the news every night. She said you're doing good here." Travis looked down. "She really said that?" Marcus nodded. She doesn't lie. For the first time in months, Travis smiled, not because things were fixed, but because maybe they could be. Weeks turned into months. Travis completed his hours, but he kept coming back, volunteering even after his sentence was done. He helped paint walls, fix leaky pipes, and organize donation drives. The townspeople noticed. The same man who once caused outrage now worked quietly in the background, building what he once broke. Then one spring afternoon, Martha came by the community center. She'd been invited to speak at an event about healing and unity. When Travis saw her, his heart raced. He hadn't spoken to her since court. Martha spotted him from across the room and smiled warmly. "Well, look at you," she said. Hard to recognize without that scowl. Travis laughed nervously. "I still got it sometimes." She chuckled softly. "Don't we all?" He hesitated before saying, "Mrs. Hayes, I don't think I'll ever forgive myself." She placed a gentle hand on his arm. "Then forgive others. That's how it starts." Her words hit him like sunlight breaking through clouds. When she took the stage that afternoon, Travis listened from the back, surrounded by people he once avoided. "Forgiveness," Martha said, her voice strong and clear, "isn't weakness. It's the courage to believe people can change. I'm standing here because I believe that, not just for him, but for all of us." As the audience applauded, Travis felt something shift deep inside him. Not pride, not relief, but peace. And for the first time in his life, he didn't feel like the villain in his own story. He felt redeemed. Spring came early that year. Brookhaven streets were lined with cherry blossoms, soft pink petals drifting through the air like quiet confetti. Life had begun to move on, but something had changed in the town's rhythm. People talked to each other differently now. Waiters smiled a little more. Strangers held doors open, and whenever someone lost their temper, someone nearby would whisper, "Remember Martha Hayes." What started as a single moment of cruelty had become a symbol of grace. At the community center, a new mural covered the wall. It showed an older black woman with kind eyes, reaching her hand toward a younger white man who stood ashamed but hopeful. Above them, in bold letters, it read, "Kindness is stronger." The mural wasn't Marcus's idea. It was Travis's. After completing his community service, he kept showing up to help. He painted the walls, fixed tables, cleaned bathrooms, anything that needed doing. But one day, he showed Marcus a sketch on a napkin. "It's what your mom did," Travis said. "She reached out when everyone else wanted to push me down." Marcus stared at the drawing for a long time. "You want to paint it here?" "Yeah," Travis said quietly. "So people remember." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then let's do it." Over the next few weekends, volunteers joined in, children from the local school, church members, even police officers. The same community once divided by outrage now stood shoulder to shoulder, painting together. When the mural was unveiled, the crowd clapped and cried. Martha stood at the front, her eyes glistening. "I'm not used to seeing myself on a wall," she said with a laugh. "But if it reminds people to do better, I'll take it." Marcus, meanwhile, found himself at a crossroads. His work as an FBI agent had always been about law and justice, but now he saw a different kind of justice, one that didn't just punish but healed. He requested a transfer to the Bureau's Community Relations Division, focusing on hate crime prevention and education. His supervisors hesitated at first, but the national attention from the case made him the perfect fit. In his new role, Marcus began traveling across the country, speaking at schools, community centers, and police departments. Everywhere he went, people asked about the video, about that moment, and about the woman who'd chosen forgiveness over revenge. She didn't do it for him, Marcus would explain. She did it for everyone watching. Because when hate wins once, it keeps winning until someone breaks the cycle. His talks often ended with a standing ovation. Reporters began calling him the agent of change. Back home, Martha's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Churches, universities, and organizations all wanted her to speak, but she remained humble. "I'm just an old lady who got slapped," she'd say, smiling. "God just made sure somebody filmed it." Still, she agreed to one major interview, a live segment on national television. The show's host introduced her, with glowing words. She turned pain into peace and hate into hope. Please welcome Mrs. Martha Hayes. When Martha walked onto the stage, the audience stood and applauded. She waved shyly, then settled into her chair. The host asked, "Mrs. Hayes, when that incident happened, you showed the world something extraordinary. What made you respond with forgiveness?" Martha thought for a moment, then smiled. "Because I've seen what anger does. I've seen it burn people from the inside until there's nothing left but ashes. I didn't want to be ashes. I wanted to be a light." The audience went silent. She continued, "People think forgiveness means letting someone off the hook. It doesn't. It means you refuse to carry their hate as your own. You drop that weight so you can keep walking." That line, "You drop that weight so you can keep walking," spread across the internet like wildfire. It became a quote on posters, tweets, and T-shirts. Teachers wrote it on classroom boards. Churches opened sermons with it. Hashtag kindness is stronger trended again, this time for all the right reasons. Months later, Travis attended one of Marcus's talks at a local college. He sat in the back, unnoticed, hands folded. When Marcus spotted him afterward, he smiled and walked over. "Didn't think I'd see you here." Travis shrugged. "Didn't think I'd want to be here." Marcus nodded toward the stage. "You heard what my mom said that day. Forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's learning." Travis smiled faintly. "Yeah, I think I'm finally learning." He paused, then added, "I started mentoring at the center, helping kids who come from rough homes. Told them about my mistakes. They listened more than I thought they would." Marcus looked genuinely moved. "That's good, man. That's really good." Travis hesitated before saying, "Tell your mom thank you for not giving up on me." "I will," Marcus said softly. As Travis walked away into the cool evening air, the campus lights glowed above him. For the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't known since he was a boy: peace. A year later, Brookhaven renamed the diner where everything happened. The new sign read, "Martha's Place, home of second chances." The walls inside were covered with photos of the mural, of community events, of families laughing. On one wall hung a framed letter from the FBI, honoring Martha and Marcus for outstanding contributions to social unity and peace. Every morning, Martha would sit by the window with her coffee, watching new faces walk through the door. Sometimes, tourists came just to meet her. When one young woman asked how she stayed so strong, Martha smiled gently. "Because I never fought hate with hate," she said. "I fought it with love, and I had help." She pointed to a photo on the wall, her and Marcus on one side, Travis on the other, paint on their hands from the mural project. The three of them laughing. One summer evening, as the sun set over Brookhaven, Marcus wheeled his mother outside the diner. She was older now, her hair silver, her smile softer but still bright. "Remember that day?" he asked quietly. She chuckled. "How could I forget? I thought I was just going out for pancakes." They both laughed. Then Marcus looked serious. "Mom, you changed this whole town. Maybe even more than that." She reached for his hand. "No, baby, we did." He smiled, blinking back tears. Martha looked out at the horizon. If people just listened more and judged less, maybe the world would heal itself. The streetlights flickered on as the last rays of sunlight faded. Across town, the mural glowed softly under the lamps, a constant reminder that even the ugliest moments can bloom into something beautiful. Martha leaned back, closing her eyes, the sound of laughter and life filling the air. The world kept moving, but her lesson remained. Epilogue. Months later, a quote appeared on a new billboard near the highway, right at the town's entrance. "Kindness is stronger than hate. Forgiveness is freedom. Martha Hayes." And beneath it, in smaller letters, "Brookhaven, the town that chose love." Cars passed by every day, some slowing to read the sign. And though most didn't know the full story, something about it made them smile, maybe even drive a little kinder. Because sometimes one act of mercy can echo for generations. And that was Martha Hayes' legacy.